Undergraduate Symposium. I am Chiquita Allen,
And I'm Greg Shaberg.
and today we are going to go over some guidelines, general guidelines about creating your poster and the rubric and some design guidelines as well as how to make your poster aesthetically pleasing. Just to keep in mind, all artifacts are due on March 5th. So that means you need to have your poster, PDF or any other research project that you're doing submitted by March 5th. So we will go ahead and get started about creating your poster. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is content sections in the rubrics. We want to talk a little bit about what makes a good poster. So in your poster, you want your title to be short, but you want it to draw interest. You definitely don't want a very long title that's gonna take up the real estate on your poster. But you want it at least to be engaging so that when your reader sees it, they're attracted to your poster and they want to readily read it and learn a little bit more about your project. You want to definitely include your name, your institutional affiliation, which is TSC, Tallahassee State College, and your faculty sponsor and department. If you don't know your department that your project is related to, be sure to get with your faculty sponsor. They can give you that information. The poster itself, remember you want it to be aesthetically pleasing. So you don't want it to be cluttered or full. So some guidelines is to stay around 300 to 800 words. Max. Because technically you don't want to put your entire research paper or all of your thoughts onto the poster. Poster does need to present relevant information that they can view it and understand your project. However, you want it to be concise so they can get your point across easily. You want to use bullets, numbering, and headlines, make the poster easier to read. And you want to effectively use graphics, colors, and fonts. And we're going to talk about a little bit about that information throughout the workshop, but those are some general guidelines about your poster. And you want to maintain a consistent, clean layout. So that's a little bit about what you need on your poster, how you want the layout to look. Now we're going to go into some specifics about guidelines.
Okay, so these guidelines are put out by the Undergraduate Research Council. And these are what they expect you to do when submitting your work. So first, you want a maximum poster board surface of 42 by 36 inches. It's pretty big, folks. Yeah, we're gonna show you an example toward the end. If you're using PowerPoint to create your poster, or any of the poster template sites, you're downloading templates, be sure to select the size 42 by 36 inches. Posters will be printed for you here. They'll be mounted and placed on a tripod. You want your poster to be situated horizontally. You want it to sit on that tripod horizontally. You don't want portrait, you want landscape. So make sure you set the setting for landscape mode when you are creating your poster as well, so that you get that effect. You'll have a lot more space to work with too. Yeah, you use landscape mode. So if using PowerPoint, set your page in landscape mode, size 42, 36 inches. The following sections must be included in the poster. Now, the header must be included. That should be in here, but these are content sections that the judges want to see. So you definitely want to have your abstract, introduction, methodology, results, and conclusion. We're going to talk about each of these in detail. I'll end up there to them. References must be available. They must be available, preferably on the poster or in handout form. And we'll talk more about this in a bit. But if you don't have references, that will go against you during the adjudication process. So make sure that you have your references. If you are, and they must be discipline specific. STEM, usually APA, English, humanities, MLA, or history, you might have to read in. So just make sure they're in discipline specific format. Yes.
Is a poster gonna be necessary for any fine art submissions?
Did you sign up for visual arts or for?
Visual arts?
You did. You didn't sign up for poster. You did not select that you were gonna do poster.
I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but I might have.
Okay, if you did, go ahead and sit through. Yes, you can do a poster based on the whole process of creating your work. And we can talk about that when we get to the arts, humanities, and social science rubric. But you don't have to submit a poster if you're displaying your work in the gallery,
Right.
let's say.
Yeah,
But if you signed up to do a poster, they're gonna expect that you're gonna have one.
okay,
So keep that in.
will do.
And the letter that you received when your abstract was, accepted, it should have information that'll indicate
Okay,
what's expected. That's a good question.
thank you.
So make sure you have your references. Posters must be submitted in PDF format by March 5th, 2025. So by next Wednesday, your poster should be saved and submitted in PDF format. Do not send the PowerPoint or the Canva presentation. Send a PDF format. Save a PDF copy of your PowerPoint presentation. Posters will be judged and awards will be given to the best posters in each category. Judging's a little different this year. If you participated in the symposium last year, things are gonna be a little different this year as far as judging is concerned with posters, and I'll explain that. But just realize that they will be judged and awards will be given. Because we have so many participants this year, we have almost 70 posters alone, just for the posters. So we have about 144, 146 participants total. Which is great, we're really happy, but we're not all gonna fit in the same room at the same time. So they're probably gonna split posters into two separate showings. One group will show in the morning, like late morning, and one group will show early afternoon, something like that. They haven't set the exact times yet. If you have, since you all are here, you have posters, you'll be notified as to what time your group goes. Most likely, it'll be divided, arts, humanities, social science posters in one block, and STEM posters. So like will be divided. So at that time, the judges will be able to come in, circulate, you'll have participants, other participants. You'll have family members, you'll have folks from FSU, FAMU, administrators from TSC, students from TSC, all there looking at your posters, asking questions. You'll stand next to your tripod and you will be there to answer any questions that people might have. You're just showing off your research. That's what you're doing. You don't have to have a prepared speech or anything. You're just showing off what you did and write about what you did. Explaining some of the ways you went about things, clarifying things for individuals who ask, and providing references if needed, if you don't have them close. So What you might do is you might prepare a little summary of your research, have it in your brain, because a lot of people are gonna say, so, what did you do? And you're gonna have to explain it over and over again, so you might kind of get that together, but for the most part, it's not stressful, it's not intimidating, it's very important. And everybody's there to celebrate you. So keep that. Okay. All right. So we're gonna look at the rubrics. These are the rubrics that the judges use to score your posters or to assess your posters, I should say that, because judging has changed. These are available on the Undergraduate Research Symposium website, and Ms. Allen and I will send anyone who has signed in this presentation so that you can have it to refer back to if needed. You notice at the top, there are scores. You have total so many out of 90, have a score column. Every year before now, the judges have gone around, scored every poster, and the top scores win. Problem with that is it can be very subjective, that scoring. When you see a range of 7 to 9 in the like very good column, a 7 is gonna make it's gonna make a big difference on your final score. You know, a 9 is gonna help a lot more. So we want to make sure that things are as equitable as possible. So what we're doing this year is we're throwing out the scores. You still might have judges writing scores down just for their own reference, to remember, you know, what they thought of your poster. But instead, they're going to talk to you, look at your posters, make some notes, and then they're all gonna get together, the judges that looked at the entire group, and they're gonna hash out who had the best posters. And they're gonna use this as a guide. So this is more a guide than an absolute, you know, determiner of who wins and who loses. So I would suggest you look these over, make sure that you have all the elements. Of course, you wanna look in the perfect 10 column. That is the column you want to look at to make sure that you have all the elements that are needed. Now, on this first page of the rubric, they focus on poster heading, abstract, research question, and introduction and background. Notice that these aren't, some of these categories are not things that appeared on the categories I told you were absolutely necessary. These are elements of the poster that they want to see. So keep that in mind. So let's go over these in a little more detail. So the poster heading for STEM students, you want a logical thought. You do not need to be super creative, witty. You just need, the title needs to tell the reader what your topic is, what you do. You don't want 15 words, colon, and 10 more words, just a nice short title that gives your reader a good idea of what you've done. The presenter is you. So you're gonna want your name. You're gonna want this institution, Tallahassee State College. You're gonna want your faculty sponsor with department, as Ms. Allen talked about earlier. Your abstract is the one that you submitted to Oxford Abstract. The one that you were accepted. If you received a letter that you needed to revise before acceptance, that's okay. Submit your latest revision. But what you want to do is copy and paste that abstract right into that section of the poster. That's how easy it is. Because the abstract that you submitted to Oxford Abstracts is the abstract that will be printed in the program. So that is what everyone is going to see when they're looking through the program to see which posters they'd like to. So you want that abstract in the poster. You must have research question or research questions. These are the broad questions that guided your research. For example, maybe your research question is, how does social media usage impact adolescents? Broad, That's what you started with when you began this project. Notice it's not your hypothesis. Your hypothesis is not a question. Your hypothesis is a statement. So the hypothesis might be phrase, adolescents who spend more time on social media will report lower levels of self-esteem. More specific, kind of gets at what you anticipate the results to be. So your hypothesis and your research question could go in your introduction. Or you could have a separate category that you call research question on your poster. And you could place your research question in that box. It just has to be somewhere within the poster. You have to include your research question. Now note that you could have more than one. That's okay. You might have had more than one question when you started your research. Make sure you include them because they will be looking for those. This is a category unto its own on the rubric. So in your introduction, should have an objective tone. You don't want first or second person, you don't want any I, you don't want any you, you don't want any we. How can you achieve that, you say? Good question. You can use passive voice. That's one way you can do it, especially in scientific abstracts and posters, you see a lot of passive voice used. But you could incorporate your research questions here. Like when you were in 1101 and 1102, and you wrote papers, your instructors told you that in the intro, you're catching your reader up to speed. That's what you're doing in this intro. Catching your readers up to speed on the topic, talking about its relevant studies that have been done recently, that recent trends in the field. This is where you catch me up to speed on the topic. Then we move on to the next page of the rubric. Now, the next page of the rubric has 5 categories: method, results, findings or main argument, conclusion and or discussion, references, and image and design. Again, look at that last column. That's going to have the elements that you want to include in your poster so that you can appeal to those judges and to the readers. Give them all they need. Your methods, what did you do? You're going to describe the design of your study. You did a little bit of this in your abstract. Here, you're going to expand it. You're going to be more specific and tell me all the things that you did. You might talk about how many participants there were, what materials you used, how long did it take, and how did you analyze your data? These are all topics you might touch on. Then you're going to have a new section of your poster that focuses on results. What did you find out? What did you end up with? These are your findings, your main argument. Be sure to write clear, concise explanation of the results of your research here. Make sure that you tie the results to your research question for your audience. Yes.
For the results section, isn't it only supposed to be a couple of sentences, basically?
It doesn't have to, the results section, like in your abstract, yes, you want it to be very concise. In your poster, it can be longer. It can be longer. That's a really good question. Because we just harped on in the abstract, be concise, just 1 or 2 sentences. But here, you can talk a lot more about what you discovered and how it kind of connected to and answered your research question. You don't want to go into kind of analysis, kind of looking at, well, these were the weaknesses, that's for your next section. In here, you're just talking about your results. What did you discover? What did you end up with? Good question. Now we have the conclusion and or discussion. This is where you summarize your overall project, addressing both the research question and the project's objectives. If appropriate, discuss any limitations to your study. Was there anything that kind of limited you and limited your data? Anything that interfered with the results that you might change if you were to do it again? You could talk about that. You might also talk about what future studies might occur based on your results. If more research is needed, what specifically might be researched? And talk about how your results actually help advance the conversation of this topic in your field. So here is more of your analysis. This is more your analysis of the results. Kind of reflection. Of course, references. That is the next one. You must have, now, in the past, we've been kind of loosey-goosey about whether a student had in-text citations. Because those in-text citations take up some real estate. And you don't want, you need every space you can get. You'll find that as you're putting your poster together. You're like, ooh, I need to cut this down. I don't need it to expand. But you must have in-text citations in this year. The judges will be looking for it. So anything, any source that you quote, paraphrase, or summarize must have an in-text citation associated with that. And it must be discipline specific. APA, MLA, Turabian. Whatever is preferable in your field. Now, you have to have your list of references as well. The category, when you have that category in that box, you will title it references. Okay, and you're saying, but I have works cited. I put works cited? No. Call it references and then have MLA style citations underneath. Okay. So make sure that you have those on the poster. If you have four, let's say, four citations, put them on a poster. If they're there, you don't have to worry about them. If you have 12 sources you used, then I would print a handout for everybody. But make sure that you have enough handouts for the people who come to see your poster and for the judges. Maybe keep a little stack aside for the judges just in case you don't want to run out. If we have 146 participants and we have their family members and DSC students and the faculty and everybody coming, you're gonna have a lot of people. So you might be giving out a lot of handouts. So keep that in mind. You are responsible for printing your own handouts. And finally, images and overall design. Aesthetics is only worth 11% of the score if they were keeping score. Only 11%. Always has been, always will be. But this is extremely important, folks. Because if your poster's not legible, I can't access your content. If I can't access your content, you fail. You failed your readers. Thanks. If it's illogically placed on the poster, if you have a picture over here with the text referring to it as over here, you've confused your reader. Again, it affects the content. If you have bright saturated colors and oddly colored fonts on top of those bright saturated colors, and it hurts the eyes of your readers, they're not gonna wanna look at it. So aesthetics go hand in hand with content. Keep that in mind. This is just as important as making sure that you get the content in there. So that is what you need to consider for the STEM rubric. For those of you who are in the arts, humanities, and social sciences,
Now,
Yes,
we're gonna
Alan.
talk about those guidelines. Before we move on, for those of you online as well, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat for us. We have any questions out here on what Mr. Schaefer talked about thus far? Right, and if you have any questions online, please put it in the chat. Also, if you are joining us online, be sure to put your TSC email in the chat along with your full name. Okay, so Mr. Schaefer just went over STEM, so now we're gonna go over arts and humanities real quickly. It's a duplicate of almost STEM, so a lot of what I'm gonna say is probably gonna be repetitive. There's only a few things that you need to notice that are a little bit different than the arts and humanities, but a lot of it is about the same that you're looking for on your poster. Remember, you have the categories, as Mr. Schaefer said, these are the categories that they're gonna be focusing on. That doesn't mean they're all gonna be on the poster. There are some that needs headings on the poster, but these are all the categories that you're gonna pay attention to. And also, you wanna look at the very far end of the rubric to make sure that you're following along with what's needed to make a effective pinpoint of the poster. And a little bit about the language. You might see on the arts and humanities that you'll see a lot of the language is about the same. Sophisticated, sophisticated, sophisticated. Again, just pay attention to the content that you need in those areas. It's gonna be subjective because you're all gonna be creating different visuals. So the judges are gonna take that in consideration. One is gonna have different visuals, so they're gonna be focusing on different things, especially if you're in the arts, humanities, and social sciences. So we're gonna go through each of these categories real quickly. So arts, humanities, and social sciences, you want an engaging title. But again, you don't want it to be too long, that it just captures your reader off guard, and they have to read forever to get to your title. You want it to be engaging though, to make sure that you catch your readers and your viewers' attention. Be sure to put the presenter, the institution, and the faculty sponsor with the department at the top. Same thing as STEM. If you don't know your department, be sure to get with your faculty sponsor. You're gonna take that abstract that you created, and you're gonna plop it right there in the abstract section. Be sure that all your text is the same font. You've seen that happen before. You place the abstract in there, you've had it one font, but then you put it on the poster, and it's a different font than the rest of the text. Make sure it's all the same font. On the arts, humanities, and social sciences, you're either gonna have your research questions, or your thesis. Like Mr. Schaefer said, this information can be on a header somewhere by itself on the poster, or you can include it in the introduction and the background. And in the introduction and in the background, you need to explain your specific focus of the topic. So give your viewer some historical context, some background information about your topic. Provide a little bit of literature or theories that guided your study. And be sure you put that content in the introduction. You want to catch your viewer up to speed. Remember, it's the poster that the viewer is judging, not you talking through it. They need to have enough information on your poster to realize what your topic is about, the process you went through, the results that you found, all on just the poster, even if you're not there. They should be able to view your work and understand your work without you being present. So the next part of the rubric, again, these are the categories that you need, and you want to look in that last section to make sure that you're following what you need. So in the methods, Provide relevant information on how you went about conducting your study. For visual arts and humanities and arts, it might be a little bit different. You might describe the process of the materials that you use to create the artwork. You might describe the process of how long it took. You might describe the process of the scene or the background of the setting that your art represents or where it should take place. So in methods, you need to write down specifically how you went about creating your visual representation. And you want to talk about the analysis as well. What approach did you take? So basically, you're just describing your process. Again, you wanted to include your findings, results, or main argument. You know, so what does your art represent? What should it interpret to the viewer? What's important about it? Why do you think it's relevant to society today? And what the viewer can take from it? Those are the results that you're gonna add.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this in the abstract workshop with visual arts. If you created a sculpture, let's say, in your results section is where you would talk about what you anticipate the viewer of your sculpture feeling, seeing, what that person's interpretation will be. Of course, it might not be that, but it's what you envision it being.
Right. What should the viewer take from your artwork? Why is it relevant? Why is it important? And then you should have a conclusion and or discussion paragraph. Summarize your overall project. Be sure to make your connection to your findings and your thesis question evident. Explain how your study contributes to existing research. So what other artwork connects to that? Or what other fundamentals connect to that? And why is that relevant? Why is that information important? And be sure to demonstrate an understanding how your study helps advance the conversation in the field. As Mr. Shaver said, in arts and humanities, you normally are going to use MLA or Turabian or a bibliography. The in-text citations, yes, should be in that format. However, category on your poster is gonna say references. But be sure you follow the guidelines of MLA or Turabian. Yes,
So, doing art in this sort of scientific format is pretty new to me.
Yeah, it's weird.
So my question is, when it comes to references, what exactly would that entail? There's not really anything to reference from the piece.
we'll say that you, through your studies or through your research in creating your project, you reference other sources that talked about the topic in
The genre
relationship, yeah.
that are within the same genre.
Yeah, I have something that I think I could include. I don't know, how do people usually go about the references section when it comes to the art?
This is brand new.
Yeah,
This is brand new. It's the
Okay,
first time that the symposium has ever split the posters into these two categories. And part of that was because science people always won, because it was always in this format. So they were making an attempt to separate the two so that everyone would have the opportunity to win best poster. So you are a bit of a guinea pig, but so
what I can say is an example of how you might include references in your poster is, say you're creating an eco-friendly visual representation. You looked up sources about eco-friendliness.
eco-friendly art,
Yes,
and you could
you can reference
list
that
those
in your
sources, yeah.
so. I can include something that I looked at and used, that is another person's work,
Yes.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So. Honestly, I'll go with that.
You
Figure it
could,
out.
you could even reference another work of art.
Yes,
Yeah,
That you
that's
use
exactly what
as-
I'm saying,
Yeah.
but besides that, since mine's pretty like objective, like it's really, I'm painting a feeling.
Okay.
You're gonna feel that feeling when you see it, but
Okay.
I can't source my feelings.
Correct, correct.
Yes, but if you look at another artwork and you reference something from that just to get inspiration, place that in the poster
Yeah,
like that.
okay.
Yeah.
But again, it's gonna be titled references. So be sure the in-text citations are in the correct format. Okay, so now we're gonna talk a little bit about poster layout and design.
Yeah. And again, if you're joining us online, you joined late, please make sure that you put your name and email address in the chat for us. We'd appreciate it. So this is the aesthetic portion of the presentation. We're gonna talk a little bit about what to consider as you're creating the poster as far as its design. You're probably gonna want to develop some sort of layout by perhaps using a grid to keep everything aligned. If you're more hands-on, you might cut out perhaps a piece of cardboard and some paper rectangles and place them on the board to kind of see how your design would go. This is where I'd like my picture, this is where I'd like graph, this is where I'd like the text or the intro. Or PowerPoint does a pretty good job as you're moving things around, aligning them for you. It'll create red lines once you're centered in a space or you're equidistant from something you just created over here. Let's say column A is the same length part. Column B and column C. So you can use PowerPoint in that way as well. I would suggest too that you choose a text hierarchy for the poster. And by that, I mean, your title will be in the largest font. And usually in bold. Your name is gonna be a bit smaller, along with the subheaders over the categories. And then the text within the sections will be smaller than that. Now, by small, I don't mean Times New Roman 12. That's too small. That's, hi, how you doing? It's very small. You do not, remember, people who are viewing your poster are gonna be standing 3 to 6 feet away from you. They're not gonna wanna get right up here and look at it. So keep that in mind. When we show you the actual size you have, you'll understand. It's quite a large document. So things that might look small here will look much larger on the poster itself. So you might have a title that's, 56 and then 45 for these point font, and then maybe 30 something for your text. Just play around with it, see what works. But make sure that you have that hierarchy so that it's obvious to your reader, this is the title, these are the subheaders, this is the text. Maybe even the smallest would be the caption underneath the picture, something like that. You want to try to use 3 or 4 columns. That is usually what people do. We, in the United States and in the West, for the most part, read left to right. So we'll start at the top left of your poster. We're going to go down, down to the bottom right. So as you're creating your poster, understand that your reader's eye is going to do this as you're designing. Okay. Then keep in mind too that your reader's eye needs a little rest. You don't want to pack 1,000, 1,200 words in there. That's going to be overwhelming. 15 pictures your reader's head's going to explode. You don't want this. Make sure that you leave some white space. 40% might be a bit much. I mean, that's a high estimate, but make sure that you take that into consideration as well. Space things out
it makes things a little bit easier to access information. Limit your use of boxes and lines. Remember that lines prevent your reader's eye from scanning smoothly. When I scan, I'm scanning like this. If you put a horizontal line right here, let's say, then that is where my eye stops. Boom, it's a hard stop, it's a barrier. And maybe I go here next. And you're like, no, 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 I don't want you to go here, I want you to go here. Well, you shouldn't have put a line there because I went where I wanted to go. So guide your readers' eyes and don't stop them in their tracks. Also, if you wanted to put lines between columns, you could do that. That's not as harsh. Horizontal lines are going to be problematic. Outlining your boxes, also problematic, so keep that in. Make sure you place related items close to one another. As I said, you do not want a chart over here that's referred to over here. You want to make sure that things are together. That makes sense, right? And you want to either use the templates that are provided by the Symposium, which we'll show you, or make sure from a template website, you select the 42 by 36 option. All right, let's talk a little bit about font.
Okay, so when using the font, remember, you wanna make sure that your entire text on your poster has the same font. And the best font for the posters is going to be Times New Roman, because that's easier to read. And remember, these are gonna be printed out, so you're gonna see the full display of the poster. Your viewers are gonna see the full display of the poster. And be sure to proofread and revise your poster and make sure that all the fonts is set evenly. And the reason, if you see some of the difference between Times New Roman and virtual presentations, which we did have a virtual presentation in the past, the best for virtual presentations would be sans serif fonts like Arial or Calibra. You see a little bit different. The serif fonts had that little sharp edge at the end, which guides the reader's eye. Whereas without it, you have more of a curved edge, but using Times New Roman is the best for your poster presentations in person. A little bit more, use no more than 3 font styles. I would say go less than that if you need to, because if you have too many different variations of fonts on your poster, it's going to look cluttered and it's gonna look distracting. So, and you don't want to use funny style fonts because that's gonna be very distracting as well. So stick to Times New Roman. I would say 2 fonts at the most. But if you can make it even, you can probably use 3 font styles. And you want to combine uppercase and lowercase letters throughout your text. Using all uppercase letter creates a rectangular shape, making the reading more difficult. As you can see, the big blocky, choppy rectangles makes it harder to read for your viewer. So you want to use the ascending and descending strokes in upper and lowercase letters to make it easier for your viewer.
Okay, now color is also important to consider. And while this is still about font, we're going to talk a little bit about color and font. And so you want to use fonts that can be easily read. Do not use Joker or, I don't know, Lucinda, any of those that are going to be much more difficult to read. Black text on white has a high impact and excellent readability. We know this from centuries printing, right? White page, black text, easy to see. However, sometimes students want to create colored fonts to help draw attention to an area. If you pick a color to use as a font and a background, make sure that the background and the font complement one another, that you have high readability. For example, blue and white, dark blue and white, easy to read. However, yellow on white, red on black, black on red, blue on black can be very difficult to read. You can see, you can barely see, hard to read in black, and this pea green on red hurts your eyes to even look at. In fact, when I look at it, it vibrates. So you don't want to do that to your readers either. So keep in mind the readability of your font if you use color. It's not a bad idea to use color. Just be careful so that you don't end up turning your reader off. Also, you want to be careful when choosing a color, bright saturated colors, you want to use sparingly. Bright red, neon pink, things like that. Not good colors to choose for scientific posters and symposium posters. And you should always keep in mind too, that large amount of red, yellow, and orange can overpower your message. Because most people in the West, these colors evoke a sense of warning. What color is their stop sign? Red. What color is a stoplight? Red. What color is a school zone sign? Yellow. What color is a construction sign or construction cones? Orange. They all say warning. You don't want somebody looking at your poster and to become filled with anxiety. So keep that in mind. Those colors are usually not helpful. Now, a little bit of red, really good idea. A little bit, because that can really make something pop, but a lot of it, not a good idea. Okay, so let's talk a little bit now about images.
So in regards to using images, again, Mr. Shaver talked about this a little bit earlier. When you use images on your poster, make sure that the image that you're utilizing on your poster is in relation to the information about the image. So don't have this image here, but the information about it way over here. Because now you're going to confuse your reader and guide your reader in all completely different directions. Be sure to make your images meaningful. Have them relate to the poster. I know sometimes you want to stick in a pretty image because it looks like it complements the poster. However, make sure it's relevant. Make sure it is related to the topic. Proper edit images so that important information is the most obvious. Remember, your poster is real estate, so you want to have enough white space to make it look presentable. However, you want to use images effectively as well. Give photos short titles or captions so that your reader can easily see what the images are. So place the captions maybe right below the image to give the information. And label directly on maps, charts, and graphs to make them easier for your reader to understand, and try to avoid legends. Remember, again, legends is probably going to take up real estate, and then your reader probably has to get up, your viewer has to get up close to see which legend goes with what. So try to avoid them. Make sure the image is meaningful enough that you can put information on it to relate it to the topic. So using images. You want to simplify charts and graphs and remove any non-essential information. So if you do put a chart or graph in there, again, make sure it's relevant and make sure you have information. Sometimes charts and graphs have all the information on the edges that is not relevant really to the image itself. So you can remove those. Use bold lines and graphs so that the data can be easily read. Like Mr. Shaver said, a little bit of red is fine. And this one does use it. It draws your eye to that graph, tells you the points and the information that I want you to see, and I can move on. That's using red sparingly. However, if the entire graph is red and every point and everything in it is red, that's when it can become distracting. And balance your images to lead the viewer's eye through the material. Again, people are going to read your poster from left to right. So you want to make sure that everything is aligned, so it goes in one direction.
Another thing too, and my dad, Ms. Allen,
Yes.
is don't use legends. Don't use legends. If you have a graph and you, let's say you have an orange line, yellow line, and a purple line, then you have a orange down here, yellow and purple, and your reader has to go here to here, back and forth. Not advisable. So try to avoid using legends.
Yes.
If you have charts and graphs. Okay, so how do you submit your poster? You would have received an email that told you the email address to send it to, correct? Send it to the Undergraduate Research Symposium
Did anyone get that already?
address. And the deadline to submit again is March 5th. Posters must be submitted in PDF, remember, please. Don't submit the PowerPoint, instead submit the PDF version of PowerPoint. And I think that is about it as far as poster submission at this point. If the team has any questions, they will contact you. For example, last year we got a poster where they put two colors, like black background, and it was a dark font. So the image would have printed just as one big black square, a rectangle. The committee contacted the individual and said, hey, you're gonna have a problem with this, will you change the coloring? And they did, and the poster was printed with the new colors. So if there's a problem, they'll get in touch with you. The last thing that we want to do is quickly show two posters here. Here is one poster that it was submitted last year to the symposium. This is a TSC student. Back then, we were in the midst of the name change, so it was in places. It was a collaboration between MSU and TCC students. So they got kind of the blue going on over here for TSC and red for MSU. They're kind of a garnety thing. Notice, I like that they've got the red in the essential sections so that the reader's eye focuses on that essential material. Abstract is nice, references are nice, acknowledgements are nice, but this is the meat of the information. So this is where you want to draw the reader's eye. This is a scientific poster. There are a lot of graphs and charts. There are a lot of words, yes, but there is white space around. This font looks very small because it's a picture of a poster in a PowerPoint slide. This is what the actual poster size will look like. So it's gonna be this big. All right. So one of the comments you might be thinking is, oh, well, you know what, they have tiny font. Well, yeah, on his actual poster, it was easy to read. It was easy to read. So we wanted to do that to give you a little sense of what a poster looks like, if you want to look at that before you read it. This, on the other hand, is a poster that we got from FAU online. This is what we're talking about when we say cluttered. When we say busy, when we say distracting, hard to read. There are a lot of pictures in this. And not all of them seem relevant to the topic or to the subheader. You need to get really close to read those captions. And it's like this individual took his or her paper and plopped it right into the sections. Well, now I'm done. You don't want your poster to look like this. You want to give your reader a break. If I were passing by the posters, and I came upon this one, I would see that and go, I've got 70 people here I can look at, I choose not to look at them. So. You don't want your viewers to do that. Judges don't have a choice, they have to look, but we want you to have, a lot of success here and to showcase the wonderful work that you've done.
Right.
All right. These are some of we got a lot of our sources on creating posters from NYU and from Penn State. So if you'd like, we will send you this, and it will give you the citations you can look up. Will you scroll down for me?
Yes.
And if you scroll down to how to participate on the homepage, and you go to choose your presentation style, and you select poster templates, you will find a lot of the pre-made templates that are up there for you. Now, are all the subheaders correct? No, they're not what you're gonna wanna say necessarily. You can move these boxes, change their shapes, add pictures, change text, change colors. You can do whatever you want with these. But there are, I think, does it have where you can scroll through? Yeah, there are several different templates here for you to look at. So a good starting point, if you haven't started to create your poster yet, is to come here to the templates and see what they have to offer, and if you're interested in any of them. Again, you can change everything about these if you want, but these are already set. 42 by 36 landscape, so they're ready to go. Okay? All right,
Right.
do you have any questions for us?
And for those of you online, if you have any questions as well, you can put it in the chat. And if you're joining us online, be sure to put in your full name and your TSC email for us before you leave. If there's aren't any questions, then thank you for joining us, and you can just.
And remember that you can come see us. If you're working on your poster and you want some feedback, come on in. And we can take a look at your slide and see how it's going.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, bud. Have a great day. And if you have any questions, we'll be here for a little bit. And if you want to look at the poster, you can take a look at that too.